All right. I'm John Sherman, fighting Texas A class of 1992, and I am the Dean of the Bush School of Government and Public Service. I want to welcome you here to Interview Conference Weekend for International Affairs. Those of you pursuing that, it's so good to have you here at Aggie Land. Now, I know a number of you are local from here, so welcome. And I want to welcome folks coming from out of town, other places, to go ahead and do Interview Weekend here. You are going to have an opportunity to meet some wonderful people this weekend, and more broadly, to have an opportunity to pursue a first-class degree in international affairs here. What we offer here is purpose to go into public service. Now, you probably walked around and looked at some of the pictures of President George H.W. Bush in the classrooms and in the hallways. On his bust, down on this side of the building, on the Allen building, is a quote. It says, "Public service is a noble calling. We need men and women of character to believe they can make a difference in their communities, their states, and the nation." Always like to start with the why. That's the why. That's why we're here. We need leaders at all echelons, from our local community up to the globe. Now, you all in international affairs are looking kind of at the other piece of the national and the international piece of this. And not to say some of you may not go into local and state endeavors as well. But your interest in international affairs tells me you're maybe looking at things like international diplomacy, national security, aid organizations, and so on. That's what my own career is in, and I compliment you. I spent 30 years myself in national security. My wife and I both did. I recently retired from that area in July of this past year. I spent my time at CIA, Department of Defense, and several other agencies. And my start here, now there wasn't a Bush school when I was here. I did get a master's in public administration at another place, but my undergraduate degree and what I learned here about mission and purpose and who we are. You know, we have our core values here at Texas A&M, and the Aggies in the room will know this, but for those of you joining us, I want to tell you what they are. It goes by the acronym RELIS: respect, excellence, leadership, loyalty, integrity, and selfless service. These aren't just words on a roadside sign or in the hallways. This is something you're going to hear loud and clear. It is a higher purpose. We are a nonpartisan school. We're going to introduce you to different views, and we're going to ready you to go out into those organizations, wherever your career takes you, and serve with honor and purpose in the spirit of George H.W. Bush. So I have had a chance to do this, and many of my colleagues have had a chance to do this. So let me tell you about, you've got a first-class faculty here in international affairs. You have a mix of tenure track professors who are experts in their craft. They do research, service, and instruction. We also have professors of practice. These are men and women who have spent decades in different careers, whether in intelligence, diplomacy, military, or other areas. And they're going to bring to you their perspectives interwoven with theory and the learning that they've been able to gain over many decades. It's not just sitting on the edge of their desk telling war stories and there we were doing whatever. They're going to benefit with the relationship with the tenure track professors to bring you what I would argue is one of the top-notch curriculums and opportunities. So when you get out of here with your degree, you're going to be prepared to serve in any number of organizations, whether governmental or non-governmental, or overseas, or here in the United States, or wherever you want to go. It's first rate. And you're going to find the curriculum and the tracks you're going to be able to pursue are first rate, and the opportunities you're going to have. We call them high impact student activities. That's going overseas to do some study. That's doing capstone projects the second semester or your last year as you're interacting with actual customers, whether at a government agency or elsewhere, where you're working a real project for them. We have them all over doing different things, and you're going to be impressed. So you're going to have practical experience when you walk out of here. One thing I want to talk to you about, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up. I know there's a lot in the news about federal employment here in the United States. And whether you agree with what's going on, disagree with part of it, or disagree with all of it, there's obviously a lot of change going on. But hear me if you don't take anything else away from here. Public service matters and will continue to matter. Hang in there. When I applied for CIA in 1995, it took me a year to get on board. One of my colleagues, who's one of your professors of practice if you're accepted here, as working in law enforcement, retired FBI agent Mike Howell, took him 4 years to get into the FBI, from when he graduated here at A&M to when he started as a special agent. My point is this, and I hope it doesn't take anyone that long, but these ebbs and flows of political priorities, hiring, what's going on in that space, this won't be, if you spend a career in this, I promise you, this will not be the only time you see this sort of thing. We had a town hall in here with some of our current INTA students and others, and we reflected on all the way back to the late 70s and early 80s when there were reductions in force, hiring interruptions. When I came on with CIA in the mid 90s, we were only hiring a couple dozen a year. We called it the hiring bathtub because there was the Cold War, reduction during the 90s, and then 9/11 happened, and then there was an escalation again. So my point is, don't let this affect your calculus about, hey, I want to get into national security. I want to get into international aid. I want to get into diplomacy. I want to get into these areas. Stay with it. Because I promise we're going through a little bit of choppy waters right now. But I would argue by the time you get out of here with your graduate degree, those choppy waters are going to calm a bit. The powers are going to see that through retirements and attrition, they need a few more people ready to come in and raise their hand and go, I'll go overseas. I have language. I have cyber. I have national security know-how. I've been in those rooms. My last job was, I've been appointed, and I'm going to be a Jeopardy question someday. I'm one of the few people who have been appointed by Presidents Trump and Biden. So there's not really a Republican or a Democratic way to do technology. So I was the chief information officer for the intelligence community under President Trump. And then President Biden's group asked me to stay on as chief information officer of the Department of Defense. I'm a history major, by the way. So I had to do a lot of learning. And that's one thing you're going to learn here too, is lifelong learning and the value of that. But I've been in the room where we're talking about talent and talking about, as we are trying to maintain skill sets and bring in people that are ready to step up and go into the hard areas and do things. So again, I know it's hard to kind of watch the news right now, or you're looking at LinkedIn or wherever you're getting your information and like, hey, there's going another reduction in force, or probationary term officers are being laid off. This too shall pass. All right. And other things like with USAID's essential dissolution, there's going to have to be foreign aid in some form or fashion. I don't know if it'll be called something else. State Department will stand it up, but these inflection points occur. What's not going to change is the world is a very complicated place. It's not getting any simpler. Whether we're talking about actual conflict, as we've seen in areas like Ukraine and Russia, the Mideast and elsewhere, or we're talking about economic issues among nations, migration, alliances or lack thereof, it's not getting any simpler. And again, to quote President Bush, we need men and women of character to believe they can make a difference. That's you all. That's why you're here. And I have no doubt, as every time I look out to one of these audiences, I'm looking at a future cabinet secretary, a future senior leader, somebody who's going to run a large international organization. And we're going to give you that launch pad ready to get out there, whether you're going to be working at the Pentagon, an aid organization, maybe overseas in an international setting, wherever you're going to be happen to be doing that, we're going to provide you the launch pad. So I welcome you here. And again, for those of you who are from this campus and are Aggies already, thanks for coming out and coming over here to start talking about the next phase of your career. And for those of you who have traveled from elsewhere, welcome. We're Aggies, and we want to have you as part of us here too. And I think you won't be one bit disappointed. So lean into this interview conference weekend, and it's so good to have you here. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Bearce, Gig 'em Aggies. Thank you very much.
Recent ankle surgery, so I am moving around in the cane. I don't believe this is a permanent condition. I've been asked not to lean on the podium, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay. Let me begin the presentation by sort of introducing the International Affairs or the INTA team. And let me start with our Chief Administrator, Peg Hosea. Brandy Blankenship, Administrator for Graduate Studies, also walking with a cane presently. So not just me. Dr. Fritz Bartel, who is our Director of Graduate Studies, no cane. And my name is David Bearce, and I am the department head. I'm not sure who is the tail, but I am apparently the head. So what I'd like to do here is, indirectly, this is about selling the program, but what I'm going to try to do right now is describe it. In my view, and I went through a program like this in Washington, D.C. at a time before the Bush School was created. So I know these programs both as a student, because I went through one, and as a department head. And I came here from the University of Colorado in large part because I was very impressed with the construction of this program. So in my view, if I describe it well, this is selling the department. So let me, clicker. See if this works. It does. Okay. All right. So I just want to make sure you see the big picture here. So we'll start with this. Masters of International Affairs. That's what MIA stands for, the Masters of International Affairs. One of our two current master's programs is a 48 credit hour program where each class is a 3 credit hour class. So in the course of this 2-year program, you will take 16 courses over a 4-semester period. So in essence, you will be taking, if you're on track, 4 courses per semester, all right? That math all works out, trust me. Within this set of 16 courses, we have 5 required, the term here is core courses, but they are required courses, and I'll talk about those in a moment. You have already, with your application, identified one of our 2 tracks. These tracks are national security and diplomacy, which is our bigger of the 2 tracks. If you hear people say NS&D, this is a reference to this track. The second track is international development and economic policy. This is the IDEP track. Okay. Now, tracks are kind of big picture. Below that, the organization of this department is concentrations. And I'll go into the detail of what the concentrations are in a moment, but you will, consistent with your track, pick 2 primary concentrations, which consists of 3 courses on a similar subject. And then there's a detail about only one of these courses can double count across. And then you have additionally 5 elective courses, which will allow you, if you want, to also package those for a 3rd concentration. Okay. So we have a set of required courses, we have a set of curriculum, but you also have electives within that. Okay. Now, let me first talk about this particular track, NS&D, National Security and Diplomacy. These are the 5 required courses, and I can talk a little bit about these, but let me tell you what they are and give you a sense for why we require these courses. The first course, and this is required for also the IDEP track, is a course in quantitative research methods. Now, this is important, and I imagine that some of you, not all of you, but some of you may be saying, what? I am not interested in doing quantitative analysis. May be true, but you are interested in getting a job in Washington, D.C. sitting on this stage about a year ago was the then Director of National Intelligence, Avril Haines, who made a point that in the intelligence community, we desperately need people who can analyze data, not just collect it, but analyze it. And I can tell you from my work experience in DC, which I had not only as a student, but I worked in the federal government. I worked at think tanks in DC before I went off and earned that PhD. The two things that were critical for me getting a job where I did, and I'm happy to go into detail about what these were, two things: international experience, which included a foreign language, and the ability to analyze data. These things went on my transcript. I had taken courses in statistical analysis, and I could identify a statistical package that I was capable of using. So this is a real key feature in getting a job. And so we are going to require that course. The second course, and here Dr. Bartell can raise his hand because you may well be taking this from him, a course in American foreign policy. Some of you have this background, and if you do, you can waive the course, but you will need to take another one. And even if you've had this, you have not had Dr. Bartell's version of it. So not necessarily something you want to waive. The third course into 606 is largely a course in international relations theory. The fourth course is an international economics course. And you may be saying to yourself, I'm not interested in international economics, but I'm telling you folks, no matter where you go in international public service, if you do not understand trade patterns across countries, financial patterns across countries, you do not understand international relations. And it is important for us and for all of you that people in DC can recognize that students coming from our programs have this broad training. And so we require a course in international economics, understanding that for many of you, this may be your first economics course. But welcome to the program. This is important. And lastly, you have a capstone, which is a bit your final course, so to speak, in the program. The program that I went to in Washington, D.C. was not a capstone program. It was a master's thesis program where I wrote a 50-page paper that I read because I wrote it, and I think my advisor read because he had to, but otherwise was basically a dead end and not even usable as a writing sample because no employer is going to sit down and read a 50-page paper. So the decision was made correspondingly that what employers are interested in is some demonstration that you have worked on a group research project. And so this is sort of the culminating capstone experience of our MIA program. And this is something you can certainly use potentially as a document for employers, a writing sample. And this is, by the way, for many of these capstones, it's possible that you will need to do quantitative analysis in your capstone project. Ergo, we require Bush 631. Okay, this fits together. And I'm telling you, it fits together in a way that is consistent with my experience in Washington, D.C. Now, if you are IDEP, you have a slightly different set of required courses. You're going to have to take 631, and you will also have to take 635, a second course in quantitative research methods, because government agencies that do economic policy, international development, put a real high premium on having these quantitative skills. You want to work at the World Bank, you are going to have to demonstrate some quantitative skills. You want to work at AID, or maybe it will be State Department that takes over foreign aid, but you will need to demonstrate these skills. So our IDEP students have 2 quantitative methods courses. And what drops from this set, we're not requiring more required courses for IDEP students. We drop American Foreign Policy, but you will still need to take the International Relations course, the International Economics course, of course, and then you similarly have a capstone. So everyone will have these. And this is in many ways, these courses, because everyone's taking them, is quite a nice sort of group bonding exercise. There will be some suffering, but when it's over, okay. You ran a marathon. You passed the finish line. You have done something here. All right, now let me talk about, I've talked about the tracks, but let me talk about the concentrations that are under the tracks. And this is where you choose sort of what you want your study here in the MIA program to be focused on. The track, National Security and Diplomacy, has 5 concentrations under it. Diplomacy. So if you are interested in becoming a Foreign Service officer working for U.S. State Department, this might be a good one to take. We have an ambassador, retired ambassador on our faculty who is the head of this concentration. We have a second concentration called International Law and Organization. Third is cyber policy. We recently hired a professor of the practice from National Defense University, but he decided to come here. So well done for us. The big concentration for many of you will be the intelligence concentration. And then we have grand strategy and defense policy. So if you're interested in these kinds of issues, we've got a separate concentration for that. In the IDEP track, we have 2 primary concentrations: international economic development, and a second track called foreign economic policy that will do with trade policy, immigration policy, some of the issues there. Now, we also have a set of concentrations that can fit with either track that you might have chosen. Conflict and development, as the title implies, this is also a popular track, can fit under either. Women, peace, and security similarly will fit under either. Pandemic preparedness and disaster response, if you choose that, will fit under either. And then we have 4 regional concentrations: China and the Indo-Pacific, Europe, Middle East, and Latin America. And let me also add, missing from this slide is the concentration also known as other. If you have an idea for some coherent subject matter that isn't tackled by one of these themes, and you can identify 3 courses at the Bush School or even in other departments, and you want to package them together, come see Peg Hosea, come see me, come see Fritz Bartel. If you can make a persuasive case that this adds together for a concentration, for example, if you want to have a concentration in Africa, we have courses, and you can build your own concentration in Africa. This can be done. All right. The goal here, and let me be clear about what the purpose of the concentration structure is. All of you, if you are interested in a career in international public service, can probably identify, for example, a U.S. government agency, department, organization that you would like to work for. And you should try to match your concentrations towards that career objective. But you may discover, as I did, that you have to consider perhaps some other government agencies. All right. When I left my master's program, I wanted to work for the State Department, but I ended up doing other things. I ended up at the Commerce Department. And so what you want coming out of a master's program in international affairs is a broad set of skills and knowledge about the world. If all you do is go deep in one narrow sense, that may be great if you get the job you want, but it doesn't always work this way. You need to come out of here with a broad set of skills and knowledge about the world. And the concentration structure is designed to get you to do that. Okay? You can pick them, you can change them, but we want you to take a wide variety of courses. And so this is how we do it. Okay. So let me talk a little bit, again, it's a 2-year program, so let's talk about the curriculum by year. The first year, we would like you, this isn't a requirement, but we would like you to complete 4 of your required courses. By 4, what do I mean? Everything but the capstone. Okay? So if you're NSND, this is 631, American Foreign Policy, International Relations Theory, and Global Economy. If you're IDEP, because you've got the 2 quantitative courses, be sure and take the 631 in the fall, 635 in the spring, International Relations Theory, and Global Economy. And okay, remember, you're going to take 4 courses a semester, 2 semesters in a year. So those 4 are your courses, and then your other 8 courses is where you begin to start filling out your concentrations. Okay. Now, when I say it's a 2-year program, the summer between year 1 and year 2 is an important. Okay. And you can do really one of 2 things in that summer period. An internship, if you do not already have some kind of professional experience, this is a valuable thing to have on your CV before you hit the Washington job market. So the summer is the time to do this. And folks, we have the facilities at the Bush School to help you find these internships. You might nod your head and say, yes, I'm telling you folks, the program that I went to in DC did not. I found my own internship myself. And I had to pay the school for that. Can you tell I still resent this to this day? Anyway, we will help you. Alternatively, we also have a foreign language requirement. Now, for some of you, this may be challenging, so start thinking about this. But this is really important. It will be hard, or at least harder, to get a job in international public service if you do not have demonstrated experience abroad in a foreign language setting. Okay, the podium didn't fall over. This is not what people were. All right, so you've got a foreign language requirement. For some of you, this may be easy. You have already, just take the test. But for others of you, you will need to have this into your plans. And one way you can do this, if you need to catch up, is a summer language immersion program. All in on a foreign language, and you come back and you take the test. Okay. What's that? Yep, and career service helps with this. We have an excellent career service office here. And proud of these folks. And like as I said earlier, my program did not have this. Okay. Then in your second year, you're going to complete your concentrations and your electives. You'll do this in the spring semester as well, when you would typically also take your final required course, your group capstone project. And from that, you have completed the program. You'll also be applying for jobs in your spring semester. And I can talk about some other new features that might be happening in your second year in a later slide. Okay. Now, in addition to the curriculum, we have a number of sort of features to the International Affairs Department that I want to highlight here. Centers, institutes. The Scowcroft Institute of International Affairs. This is not technically an international affairs unit, but the faculty that lead it are my faculty. And this is an institute that brings lots of speakers from DC to College Station to stand at this podium. This is a very active center. There will be plenty of events sponsored by Scowcroft that I hope you will make efforts to attend. They are certainly available. Similarly, and if Scowcroft is a little bit more on the NS&D side, Mosbacher Institute for Trade Economics and Public Policy does the same, especially on the IDEP side. So you will have lots of events, speakers potential contacts to make through these centers. We also have a Center for Grand Strategy. Dr. Bartel is associated with that, and he'll talk more about that later this afternoon. We have two programs which are not a little slightly different than centers, but we don't need to. Program on Women, Peace, and Security, which matches with the concentration. That is led by Dr. Valerie Hudson, and Dr. Will Norris, our China specialist, has his program on economic statecraft. Okay, so if these are subjects that interest you, by all means, come and get involved with these programs, centers, and institutes. There's more here than simply classes. Financial aid. Okay, let me talk through some things, details here. This is important, folks, because among other things, careers in international public service, they are noble and important, and I second everything that Dean Sherman said. But you are not, if you're interested in international public service, and you will be paid for international public service, but this is not Wall Street. So it is important, and this, folks, this is a real consideration when choosing your program, is making sure that this is a program that you can afford and you can leave without substantial debt. A small anecdote from mine is I recall a friend in my program describing his career at Price Waterhouse, an international consulting firm. I was like, dude, why? And his answer was, I'm so in debt from my program that I've got to do a job like this to pay off my debt. Well, the problem is that's kind of a mismatch between what he wanted to do and the education that he got. So these features of our program, I think, are quite important. Every Bush School student, and this is President Bush's request in putting his center here, was every student will pay in-state tuition. And all of the awards that we will make, at least for the first year, are scholarships. What does this mean? This means you get you get this money towards your costs, but we're not going to require anything of you. Okay? You can take classes. So they don't require work in exchange for it. In the second year, as long as you're maintaining a GPA of 3, you're going to continue to pay in-state tuition. And we have a set of awards, even bigger awards, for second-year students where you can be a graduate researcher. So in a sense, you are helping a faculty member with his or her research in return for quite a substantial discount here. So if you have interests in doing research or getting involved with this, our program has opportunities for you to apply in your second year for graduate research assistants, be matched with faculty who are looking for students. Okay. And this is, again, one of the reasons to take 631, for example, seriously, because many of these faculty will want a graduate student who has at least some familiarity with data analysis. Okay, so demonstrate that in your first year in 631 and or 635. But we consider ourselves to be a very affordable program. And in fact, so do our rivals. I can recall a friend of mine at another similar program saying to me, I do not know how you guys are able to get these kids through at such low cost, but we can't. I said, yep, you can't. But we have a Bush Foundation and we have ways of doing this. Okay, additional opportunities. Okay, there are ways to compete for summer internship support, so that additional summer requirements of internships. If the internship doesn't pay, you can look into summer internship support. Even if you don't get a graduate research assistantship in your second year, many of our faculty, including people like me, have money and will pay students for research assistant on an hourly basis. So there are other ways to do this. We also have support if you're not doing an internship for your summer language immersion program. So this is a relatively, well, actually more than relatively, a well-resourced master's program. And this, I think, is one of our really key sales points here. I'll talk more about that later. Okay. I think we've reached the end here, haven't we? Okay. So at this point, I am happy if you've got questions, things that you would like to know that I didn't cover in that thoroughly comprehensive set of slides. Don't be shy. If you don't raise your hand, I'm just going to think, okay, this was a perfect presentation. So clear, but I'm usually not that clear. So yes. I mean, in effect, yes, but you've got to pick a track. So let's go back here. Okay. The requirements are, let's say you're NSND. One of your concentrations has to be an NSND concentration, but the other could be an IDEP. So you could do in this program, if you want to do intelligence as a concentration, you can also do foreign economic policy. Yeah. So that answer? Okay. Please. Should they? They don't have to, but I am one of these people who, if you have an interest in quantitative analysis, even if you don't have to sign up for 635, I would encourage you to do it. This is a very marketable skill to have on your CV when you're looking for jobs in DC. And it's one of these skills that if it shows up on your CV, there's no agency in the government that is not doing data analysis. And so even if your topical coverage perhaps doesn't match well with what they're interested in, if they can identify somebody who can manage the data without somebody looking over their shoulder, this is a way to get hired. So don't have to, but yeah, I would. And you got electives. So, and we've got some good quantitative instructors. So yes. Let's go way in the back. Yeah. Okay. I might have. Okay. So we have language instructors here. You are not going to be taking language classes towards your credits. So we have various ways to help you with the necessary competency, but that's not going to occur within the into classes. Is that making any sense? Okay. Yep. Mike Howell, who is our language instructor, leader, organizer, is going to have a separate panel. I believe it is tomorrow afternoon. So he's the better one to give you a complete answer here. Okay, I saw a hand in front of yours. Okay, then it was a good question. Ah, yes, please. Yep, no problem. Our 631 and 635 are not going to use artificial intelligence, and I'm a applied statistician. So yes, there may be ways to do it, but we would like you to be able to do it separate from relying on artificial intelligence. So Yeah, I think artificial intelligence for us is a little bit more of a topic of study rather than a way to get through 631 or 635. Okay, where am I? Okay. I mean, please ask. We will be around. So stop me, stop Dr. Bartell, stop Peg, stop Brandy, and ask the question. But thank you very much, and I'll see more of you later.
Howdy. There you go. You'll get used to it. I know it's not always easy. So, my name is Matt Upton. I'm the Assistant Dean for Graduate Career and Student Services. And so, I'm here today to share a little bit more about our student services. So, you heard from the academic department. We work with them, we partner with them to get you all here. They have to put up with us whether they like it or not. We could say the same for them. So, but we get to work with them and have a great time doing that, supporting our students. Let me just start by saying I've spent the last 4 days in Austin, Texas, and I know many of you, it's okay, it's just a location. I didn't talk about the school. My goodness, I'm an Aggie through and through, but it's just a town. And so I had the great privilege. I know many of you are not necessarily thinking that state government is where you want to be. You're thinking more federal, although we'll see what that looks like in the next few years. And we'll continue to talk about how we support you in that way. But I will tell you that I still think we have the best former student population out there. And I'm not talking just about the Texas A&M network, but I'm talking specifically about the Bush School Network. I sat in the Capitol cafeteria and had meetings with former students who are doing all kinds of things in all kinds of places, changing the world in a lot of different ways. So I hope that that's what you're here to learn more about, is how you can prepare in your education to change the world through public service. And you may not work in a public service type job. You may work for the private sector. I'm in career services. We want you to get a job. So I'm not like your faculty who have to hold the line on you have to get a public sector job all the time, right? I'm pretty bold about saying that we want you to get a job where you feel like you can flourish. Because guess what? Our graduates go into the world as public servants, whether they work in a public sector job or not. They're going to serve their community. They're going to serve as volunteer firefighters. They're going to serve as volunteers in their community, in their faith-based organizations, in their community service organizations. So you're going to have the opportunity to do that. But we want to share with you more about what we do to help you as a student. And then I'll give you a chance to ask any questions about some of the requirements that we try to help the department with, like your internship and your language immersion to pass that language exam. So right now you're getting to work with one aspect of our office, and that's recruiting and admissions. So Annetta Douglas, Ashley Treadway, Kathryn Meyer, let's just give them a round of applause in advance. This is their second weekend of doing this. And we were talking at lunch today about how many midnight emails we get from Kathryn during this season of the year. So she's always working. Ashley's always working. Annetta's always working to get you here and to support you in your time here. And so that's the first piece of what our team does, is the recruiting and admissions piece. And then once you get here as a student, we've got a career services team, and we've got a leadership development team, and then we've got all of us who function to help you in student activities and student programs and services. So our career services team, I work on the career services team. That's actually what I came over here to the school to do 21, almost 22 years ago, was to head up the career services piece. And I still get to do that, and I love doing that piece. Then we also have Ashley Winterroad, who's at the back of the room. She can wave her hand if you want to turn around and look her way. And so she manages our career programming. So all of our career workshops, she's always looking to see what are the latest trends in recruiting, in hiring, in interviewing and putting forth your LinkedIn, the best LinkedIn profile, even for those of you that want to go into security sensitive positions. The best way to interview, the best way to put your information out there in the form of a cover letter or written documents. So she's always working on that. And then Michael Kathryn is our assistant director for employer relations. So he's always looking at employers, looking to see who we can get to come here or who we can get to Zoom in for information sessions. The fall is really heavy specifically for our national security and diplomacy track students, right? We're trying to bring in all of the security sensitive employers who might hire you for internships, because we know that you're going to have to go through a security clearance process. So the fall, you're going to see a lot of organizations like the CIA or DIA or the Department of Defense or State Department, or any of those types of organizations coming in, right? Because their process is really front loaded into the fall. For those of you that are interested in non-security positions in any range, for public service or public sector jobs, those tend to be more spring internship searches, right? And because they may not know if they have projects for you to do until the spring semester, or they may just not do any of their recruiting because they're typically smaller organizations. They may not do a lot of external recruiting. There are some organizations, even in the federal government, who do a really good job of external recruiting, and they're out on the road and they're interacting with people. And then there are other federal agencies that aren't doing that. And so we want you to be aware of that. We can help you connect with those employers, though, because of that network, that former student network that we have. We have over 5,000 former students from the Bush School that are working in a variety of fields that we can connect you with. And there are over 500,000 living alumni in the Texas A&M network. And we can help you connect with not all of them, but a good number of them to make sure that you're moving forward. So the big question you probably have right now is, so what does that look like for the next year with all of these federal hiring freezes, layoffs, furloughs? I don't know yet. So we're going to see what the next year looks like. What I can promise you that we will do in career services is we will continue to support you by offering resources that help you. We also offer those resources to our former student population. A couple of weeks ago, when news broke that USAID was furloughing a lot of people, we did a really quick look to see how many former students we could identify in the international development space and try to find ways to push resources out to them proactively to provide support for them. So we did that. We identified about 40 former students through LinkedIn and through other chains that we have of staying connected with people. And then we sent out some resources that are specific to those in the international development field. We are also looking at ways to support them individually. Here's the reality. No individual, like this whole group in here, none of you are going to have the exact same career. So each conversation that we have at the end of the day really needs to be an individual conversation. Right. So I met with a former student in the international development field who's in Austin now this week when I was over there. She has been doing workforce planning and talent development and talent acquisition. She's been helping hire people into these international development jobs. Well, the type of job she's looking for is very different than someone who's been doing communications in that same field, or someone who's been doing monitoring and evaluation or program implementation in the field, right? So we really have to work with you. We can send out some collective resources, but we have to work with you individually as well. It's the same way in our workshops here when you're a student. Ashley hosts a series of career workshops in the fall of your first year. If you attend all 5 of those workshops and you submit the deliverables, like a resume, a LinkedIn profile, a mock interview recording, some of those types of things, then you can, as Dr. Bearce mentioned, qualify for additional internship or language immersion funding. That funding is in addition to the scholarship that Dr. Bearce and Peg Hosea and Dr. Bartell will share with you about more tomorrow. And so you'll know a little bit more about that, but it helps offset the cost of going to do a summer language immersion or going to another location and doing an internship during the summer. Is it going to cover all of your costs? Probably not, unless you just have a lot of money that you save during the time, but it will help offset that cost. And so we offer that to you as an additional resource to our Bush School students in both the public and international affairs program. So then when you get ready to graduate, we're also going to be there to support you in your job search, help you make those connections. In those group settings, we can talk about one level of things, but when you come into us individually, I can then look at you and you tell me exactly what you're interested in. You can tell me your knowledge, skills, and abilities. And then I can begin thinking about who are the former students, or maybe even who are the second year students who did a similar internship last year, who we want to connect you with. Who are the former students that we want to put you in touch with who are doing that kind of work? Good example. One of the former students who was working at USAID, she was specifically working in emergency management type work, risk management. And so she said, if you know anybody who's working for FEMA or any organization like that, please let me know. So we were able to connect her with Brian Smith, one of our former students who is in a management position at FEMA, and they're making a connection to talk about what does it look like to transition out of international development into something like emergency management through FEMA or similar organizations. Luckily, Brian has also done that kind of work at the state level, so he can also share with her what that looks like. So that one conversation with Katrina allowed me then to connect her with another person who's got an expertise that I don't have. So I've got a lot of information about where our former students go and what they're doing, but I don't know the ins and outs of each person's job. But when we meet with you, whether it's me or Ashley or Michael, when we meet with you individually, that's the kind of individualized support that we can offer to you as a student while you're here. And again, we offer those services to you throughout your career lifetime. So we're not looking at, you may get that dream job right out of graduate school. Some of you will, some of you won't. But we can also talk to you 5 years down the road when you decide, hey, my time in DC is over and I need to move back to Texas, because everyone should move back to Texas, in case you didn't know that. And so those are the kinds of things that we do in career services. So that's career services for you. Any questions about that so far? We still want to talk about leadership development and student activities as well. But I want to just, because I know careers are probably top of mind for most people right now. Any questions that I can answer right now? Okay. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. They can start as soon as you want them to. So, sometimes we'll even have students who reach out to us during the summer before you come in, just to say, hey, I know I'm going to have a pretty full workload, whether if you're working or if you've got a family or things like that. And so we're happy to start talking to you early on. If it's like, hey, you've got some time, we'll talk to you about that and share that. But yeah, we can have those kinds of conversations. The other piece that I will share about this, and going a little bit further than what you ask, is one of the things we don't have jobs and internships on a silver platter for you. I wish that we did. I wish you could come in and say, hey, I want to work for the so-and-so. And I'd say, great, I've got 3 of those right now. Which one do you want? And you just pull a card and you get that job. At the end of the day, your job search, your internship is your responsibility, but we're going to pour as many resources, we're going to pour them into you and send them your way. So, if we can work with you sooner rather than later, that's always better, right? Than coming to us in May and saying, I still don't have an internship and it's the first time we've talked to you. Then it's going to be a little more difficult for us to help you in the way that we would like to. Yeah. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thing I always remind students is, in any job search, how many of you have ever been in a prolonged job search before? Anybody? I've definitely been in one before. I was laid off from a job and looked for 8 months. I remind people of this all the time. Your job search is your top priority, right? You're thinking about it all the time. You're thinking, what's the next step for me? But that HR manager that you contacted, you're one of 100 people or 500 people or 600 people who've reached out to them trying to find out more information. So you're a very small part of their day, but your job search is a very big part of what you're thinking about all the time. So yes, you taking the initiative is the key component in that situation. So yes, ma'am. Yeah. Right. Sure. Yeah. So number one thing you need to know, the more you've traveled internationally, the longer you've lived abroad, the longer it's probably going to take you to get cleared. Right. So that's okay. Right. Keep good records of it. If you don't have records of that now, the next time you have nothing else to do, start writing that down. Where'd you live? What was your address? Do you have a contact there that they can reach out to? Those are the kinds of things that they're going to want to do. That the more information you have to provide in that clearance process, the quicker it will go for you. I would say, I haven't ever tracked it for other people because again, we don't, we try to help people, but I don't necessarily track each person the whole way. Probably anywhere from a year to 2 years is probably what you're looking at for most people. A year is probably pretty quick. Now, again, we'll see what it looks like in a new environment, right? We don't know right now, are all of the federal layoffs going to be layoffs and then they're going to turn around and start hiring people back in a different way and for different positions? And if so, that's probably going to create a backlog. And so it may slow that process down. So it's difficult for us to know for sure. But I'd say you're probably looking anywhere from a year to 2 years to get cleared. That's why it's really important for you to start that process early if you know you're looking at a security sensitive position and keep track of your international travel and international locations. Yeah. Yes, sir. I wouldn't say it's more difficult to have another internship after that. It probably depends on what kind of internship. And the conversation I'd want to have with you is, what do you want to get out of this internship that you didn't get out of the previous 2 internships? Because for me, it's always about expanding or developing new knowledge, skills, and abilities, or expanding or improving existing knowledge, skills, and abilities. Because that's what you want to be able to tell an employer, right? I did this and it got me to this point, and then I did this and it made me even better at that. Or I did this and it gave me this additional skill. And that's what I'm going to bring to the table for you. So yeah. Okay. I'm going to be around this weekend as well. And the other great thing about it is you're going to get to hear from some of our former students tomorrow. So we have a former student panel tomorrow morning. When you do your round robin rotations in the morning with your groups, you'll get to hear from them. And we try to pull people who are working in a variety of places. So we have some that are working in international development, not USAID, but working in international development. We have one coming in who works for the FBI. We have one who's working in cybersecurity, and we have one who's actually working in intelligence at the state level. And I'm really glad that we have her in so you can get a perspective of what states are doing. She's specifically here in Texas, but she was formerly with the Department of Homeland Security in Washington, D.C. before she came back to Texas. So you'll get a variety of perspectives tomorrow, and you'll get to learn a little bit more about that. In addition to career services, recruiting and admissions, we also have leadership development. Holly Kasperbauer is our assistant director for leadership development, and she does a lot of really great work to help you do some self-assessment, knowing who you are, knowing your personality through things like StrengthsFinder and Myers-Briggs type indicator. And then now that you know that about yourself, how does that apply to how you work in a team? When you're working on that capstone project in your second year, she's going to come into many of those capstone meetings, those initial ones, and she's going to say, here are the different personalities represented in this group of 6 to 8 students. This is what this means for this group. You're going to have to think about this. You're going to have to work on this. Your communication is going to be a challenge because of the different personalities here. Or you're all very similar personalities. You're going to have to figure out how to solve conflict quickly and get through that process. So think of it as kind of a mini lab of what it's going to be like working in the real world, but you've got some input that you might not have working in a working environment. And so Holly's going to do that. And then she's also going to give you the opportunity to develop an individual leadership plan to think about, where am I today? Where do I want to be when I finish this graduate program? And then where do I want to be 5 years from now? What kind of goals do I want to put in place for my personal leadership development and career development to move me forward? And then we have student activities, student services. You'll get to hear from a number of students tomorrow about the different student organizations that you can be involved in. We have several here that are Bush School specific, and then there are over 1,000 student organizations at Texas A&M University that you can get involved with. And then if you don't want to get involved with student organizations because you're kind of over that, I get it, there's also a whole community that you can get involved with. And there are plenty of opportunities here in this community, very service-oriented environment for you to be in. So I'm going to look at my list one more time and just make sure I covered everything. Yeah, I think that one thing I want you to know is that we're here to support our students. And I think you will see that this weekend as you interact with Kathryn and Ashley and Annetta and the others that are here. You're going to see that in our students. And then any questions that I can answer, even if it's after this weekend, feel free to email me. And if you do email me, just let me know that you were here for interview conference weekend so that I know that you have already heard from me once and I don't regurgitate some of the information I've shared. We're really glad you're here this weekend. Hope you have a really good time, get to know some people, and we hope to see many of you here in the fall. Thanks so much.
All right, so we're going to take a few minutes and review this schedule so you understand how this is going to work this weekend. And then we'll transition if we've got a few minutes to do a restroom break while the panel gets set up here. So first of all, I wanted to just thank you guys for making the trip here. I know many of you are local. I know as you're looking at the attendee list, you're going to see a lot of Texas A&M. It is a wonderful public service driven university. And a lot of those students are a good match for these kinds of programs here. And they're local, so they're here and they're going to attend. But I just want you to be aware of the 98 people who originally said that they were coming to ICW, we're at 95 who are actually going to be here. The rest of those candidates are being interviewed remotely. So those are the Zoom interviews we've been doing all month. And I wanted to just give you a little touch of what those look like. But we've already completed 80 of them, and we have more that are being scheduled. And those have included countries from Bangladesh, Ghana, South Korea, Pakistan, Serbia, the UK, Tanzania, Nepal, Japan, Nigeria, Colombia, a host of other out-of-state students who just couldn't be here. So as you look around and go, wow, this regionality is not real diverse, it is. They're just not here at this event. So we are taking care of their alternate Zoom interviews. They're getting notes put into their file just like we're going to do for you guys so that it can help us assess their fit for the program, their abilities, what they're bringing to the table, and then we'll make that assessment with an admissions review and committee, right? So it's important for this event to put your best foot forward. I've tried to schedule you with someone who is related to your area. So if you put cyber, I tried to get you, Dr. Brown, to do cyber. And I found out today somebody wrote a letter of recommendation. I'm going to have to switch that student. So there may be a student or two that I'm going to have to switch in the morning that I'm finding out, well, they know that professor pretty well already. It's usually our Aggies who are here. My apologies if you already know someone really well. I don't look in the file and look at every piece of information. I don't have time to do that. So I may switch a couple of people. I do want to also go ahead and note, if you have Dr. Eileen Teague, who's our Latin America focus, I just found out today she will not be able to make it. So Miss Peg Hosea will step in and do those interviews for her. We'll make sure that's told to you again tomorrow, but she sends her apologies. She's just not able to make it in. So if you have Teague assigned to you, we'll switch you out with Miss Hosea. So involved this weekend, we've got over 50 student volunteers. We've got at least a dozen staff who are here, and we've got 22 faculty members who will be here. So we're all participating. We all want to sell you on how great this school is, how involved we are in your success, and I hope that comes across really well. And as far as the setup for this all, just remember those name badges is our way of putting names with faces. So make sure that those are brought again tomorrow. Make sure that you are comfortable tomorrow. We want you to look good because you do want to dress to impress, but realize tomorrow's almost a 10-hour day, right? You got to be ready. So don't wear the high heels, ladies, if you're not comfortable in them. Just wear what's comfortable, look good, all right? It's a long. I also want to remind you, I sent out, once you guys started to arrive here, the information about the travel receipts. So I've now given you that Google link that you can upload receipts. Don't do it tonight. Wait until after this event. But you will upload those for those you're traveling to get those to me. And as a reminder, I'm collecting from both last week's MPSA and this week's MIA. And once I get all those receipts, I will then decide how much money I can give back to you. So sometimes I start at the low amount and I go, okay, I still have some money left over. And I start inching up those percentages to get you back as much as I can. All right, so I will help you with it, but you've got to make sure you get those receipts to me And I put a date of March 7th on those. So you got a little bit of time to get them into me, and I'll send a reminder as well. Also for this weekend, if you've got questions, you've got a ton of opportunities to ask them, whether it's from the faculty, the staff, the students. Get those questions answered while you're here. That's what we are here for. Now, as far as the agenda for today, and we're going to try to do a quick change out in a few minutes to have our faculty panel up here so you can learn a bit more about their views on public service, how they teach, what's important to them. You can ask some questions of them. And then we're going to transition in this building for dinner. So it's a buffet dinner. I'm going to ask those that I had emailed about special food requests. I'm going to get you guys to go out first, just because I don't want your food options to be gone by the time you get there. So we'll dismiss kind of in that order, special meals first, and then we'll go a few at a time and get out of here. As far as your homework tonight, I just want you to realize, put the name badge in the folder by the door or on a counter somewhere. You don't forget them tomorrow. Remember that tomorrow you can park in lot 111, which is out on the other side. There is no ticketing on Saturdays, so you're free to park in the closest lot into the building. And then you also probably want to pull up the computer and look up those faculty who are interviewing you tomorrow and just know a little bit about who they are and what they do. It's good to be familiar with that. And then as far as Saturday goes, we're going to get here early and get set up for a breakfast. If you're at a hotel, you're welcome to eat what they've got, but we're going to bring in some breakfast tacos. We'll have tons of fruit, some pastries, some yogurt, and we'll have all that out starting at about 7:45. So if we're running around as you're walking in the door, just leave us alone for a few minutes to finish setting up, and then we'll open that up once we are set. It'll be near the 41st Club. We'll have signs out, you'll know. And then we're going to take that breakfast from 7:45 to about 8:15. By 8:20, I'm gonna start getting you into 2 different rooms. I don't have one room that's big enough to hold all of you. I gotta split you into 2. So we'll put half of you in one room, half in the other, let faculty do some introductions of who they are so you can just recognize them first. And then we will have the group leaders start pulling you out of those rooms. And that way you can get to the right place. So I'll have my group 1, which is my interview. It's done by who interviews first. Group 1 goes first. So they'll pull you guys, get you into that space, and they'll start going, okay, who's my 9 o'clock? And they'll get you over near where your office is so you're ready to go by 9 o'clock. Don't just barge into a faculty's office. Make sure when your time is close to 9, if they haven't said, hey, are you out there? Come on in. Knock on the door, right? Make sure that you're being very polite. Make sure they're ready for you. If your interview is at the 20 after mark and they're still in there, don't interrupt their interview. They may be talking and really engaged. We're going to give them a little time to finish it. They've got 2 interviews and a break, 2 interviews and a break. So they'll catch back up on time and you're not going to run over. So just give them the time to bring you in or you will knock, right? And then as far as the round robin that's going on, know that another group is going to be doing a student panel while another group is doing an alumni panel. So every hour you are rotating. So there'll be lots of movement around. You're not going to like sit in a nice warm classroom and go, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I'm going to fall asleep. You're going to be moving around. We'll have hospitality up the whole time, plenty of waters, plenty of opportunity to move around and talk to different students. At lunchtime, we're going to have potbelly sandwiches. So you just grab what you want off of that. And then we will get you back into your area. It is kind of open seating over there. Again, 41st Club doesn't hold but about 20, 30 students. And we've got 95 here. So you're just going to go into spill over into classrooms, into the seating area. It's just really low key. And then we'll start up again at 1 o'clock and around another round robin. So you'll have an afternoon set of interviews. We'll have leadership and career services. And you'll have time to hear from the student organizations. So you can find out what exactly do we offer, what parts do you want to learn more about, and go into their rooms and talk to them. And then as far as dinner tomorrow night, because it seems like all I do is feed you, it's food, food, food. Dinner tomorrow night will also be Napa Flats. They're doing us here tonight and that. Napa Flats is a great local restaurant, specializes more in Italian, but we've got chicken marsala, I think tonight, and tomorrow will be chicken penne pasta with another option. And then there's obviously some vegetarian for those that need that. So we will keep you moving on this. I do want to mention that For the map and location, we have decided to move out of the first floor to go to the second floor and the third floor for 2 of our events. There is a map in your folder that has a QR code. Our group leaders will get you to the right place, but if you do want to scan that QR code, we have labeled where those 2 rooms are, and you can see that on that map if you decide to scan it. So we will not lose you, but we are going to be moving to the second floor for the student panel and for the third floor for the leadership, both in the afternoon and in the morning. So we'll keep you occupied and get you through that. I think that's all my notes for this. I just want to make sure you guys know that Ashley and myself are here to support you through this. Annetta Douglas, who's also been running and organizing this, will be back tomorrow. She did an event for us, I believe, out in Boston today. So she'll fly back and be here, but we are here to support you, as is my GA, student workers. You can't be still having questions at the end of this, or you didn't do your job, right? We're here to help. All right. So that's my part. We've got about 5 minutes before we start the panel. If anyone needs restroom break or wants to get up and move to the side or whatever, you got 5 minutes and we're going to get started with the faculty panel. So restrooms are straight out there if you need it. Otherwise, you can just sit here. And then faculty, whenever you can, you guys want to come up here and we'll get you seated and get started.
Welcome back. For the next approximately an hour, we have this faculty panel event, and this is entirely unscripted. What I have up here are, including myself, 6 members of the faculty, and it is not entirely randomly drawn, but a fairly well-distributed cross-section. And what I mean by this is a multidisciplinary international affairs program. And you can see this with the faculty members on stage. We have both professors of the practice, Greg Vogel, background in intelligence, Ambassador John Hennessy Nyland, background in the State Department. We have 4 academics from a variety of disciplines, 2 political scientists, history, and ecology. So we're going to talk a little bit about things that we represent in the department, and there will be time at the end for you to ask us, individual faculty members, questions, just a conversation, so to speak. So you have already heard me yammer for about a half an hour, other than to say I remain the head of the International Affairs Department. I do not do a lot of teaching because I am primarily an administrator. So let me pass this off to the people who are actually going to be, if you choose our program, your teachers. And let me start with Dr. Fritz Bartel.
Howdy, everybody. This is I think my 6th year, and I think this is the first year I'm actually saying that the right way at the start of whenever I talk. So if you're not from Texas, one of the things I wanted to impart to you is that, you know, this is a very welcoming place, and it takes a little bit of time to get used to some of the traditions, let's say, the culture, but that culture is one that I think it's very exciting to be a part of, particularly the Bush School culture, which is very supportive and, of course, very enthusiastic about public service, which is something we desperately need right now. So I'm a historian by training. As you heard earlier, I teach one of the core classes, American Foreign Policy. I did my graduate work at Cornell University in upstate New York. So days like today, in terms of temperature, feel perfectly fine to me. I came in the fall of 2019, and I work on, my first book was on the end of the Cold War, kind of the intersections of economic and international policy. So the part I love most about the Bush School is, from my vantage point, I get to share stages and share curriculums with practitioners like this. I get to train people who are about to go out and apply the knowledge that, the historical knowledge that I try to impart in the classroom, that we discuss in the classroom. And then I get to be a part of wonderful centers like the Center for Grand Strategy, which is, as you saw, one of the 5 centers, I believe it's 5 that we have here on campus. So the Center for Grand Strategy tries to think about the United States, you could say, broadest or most fundamental interests in the world. What are the national interests that the country should be or is trying to pursue, and how do we go about defining and pursuing a framework that will secure and promote those interests around the world and at home. And so we get to ask kind of big and fundamental questions about the United States' role in the world. If you're following the headlines right now, there's massive debates going on, largely caused by the Trump administration, about what the United States should be doing in Europe, for instance. What kind of role should the United States be playing in Europe relative to its role in the Asia Pacific? Those are the kinds of questions and the types of debates that we have in the Center for Grand Strategy. And we bring in both academic and academics and practitioners who are experts on these questions and are offering very innovative and fresh ways to think about these questions. And you as students can be fully involved in that process. So we have a student affiliates program. If you are part of that program, you can kind of join, you can come to the speaking events and then perhaps join for dinners afterwards so that you get to know these people well. We also offer some of the internship support that you heard about earlier. So if you're an active participant in the Center for Grand Strategy throughout the year, and then your internship aligns with some of the principles and the mission of the center, we're very eager to support you where we can in your internship as well. So happy to answer further questions as you may have them, either about the core curriculum or the graduate program or the Center for Grand Strategy, either during this panel or throughout the weekend. Please don't hesitate to come find me. Over to you, Professor Vogel.
Thank you, Fritz. Doctor. Howdy. Come on now. Howdy. My name's Greg Vogel. I'm a professor of the practice here at Texas A&M. Until 4 years ago, I'd never been to College Station, Texas. However, Coach Paul Bear Bryant coached at Texas A&M, and I am a huge Alabama fan, so I just want to let you all know that. I graduated from the Citadel in 1981, barely. That was in the last century. I spent 5 years as a Marine Corps officer and then 31 years in the Central Intelligence Agency. Nowhere did I ever dream that I would be blessed with the opportunity that I have now to be a professor of the practice here at Texas A&M. If you haven't figured it out yet, this is a special place. When you drive down the avenue here in front of the Bush School, you'll see things that are hanging from the telephone poles that say respect, excellence, integrity, leadership, loyalty, service. They mean it. And when I saw that when I first came here, it reminded me of the line from the old Jerry Maguire movie. You had me from hello. All right. This is a great school. This is a great place, founded by 41, and it's all about public service. If you have the calling, if you have the desire, if you have the passion to serve in any capacity here in the United States of America or throughout the world, this is a great place to come to get that graduate degree as you pursue those opportunities that'll be afforded to you. I work for Dr. Bearce in the International Affairs Department, and I head up the Intelligence Studies program, professor of the practice. We create and crank out quite a few intelligence professionals in this place. So if you have the desire and the opportunity to take that on as a core skill or a core curriculum, I can guarantee you that after 2 years, the foundation that you will receive from professors of the practice and our academic colleagues will put you ahead of the curve as you enter that community. I've told students that I've had in the last 4 years, I can't believe this is my 4th year here, that I learned the things that you learned here, and it took me 5 to 10 years before I was up to speed as a graduate or of a graduate that came out of the program here at the Bush School. So we're going to be here today, tomorrow. I'm going to interview you. Some are going to make it, some ain't. Sorry about that, but just kidding. Y'all can make it. I'm not a hard interviewer. Ask questions, pay attention, and show up in the fall, because we're going to make sure that you contribute to this country, because we need you now more than ever.
Howdy. Thank you. You know, it's always a very hard act to follow, Professor Vogel. It's a little bit like the State Department and the agency. I'm relatively new here at the Bush School. This is my third year. I head up the diplomacy concentration. I also am a senior fellow at the Scowcroft Institute for International Affairs, which is another center of excellence here at the Bush School and Texas A&M. I'm also affiliated with the National Defense University's Joint Staff College. I came to this school for one very simple reason. It's already been alluded to by some of my colleagues, and I trust it's one of the reasons, if not the major reason, that you're here today. And that's public service. You know, the 41st president said that this is a noble calling. If you take my classes, if you get to know me, I think you'll find out that one, I'm very corny, but two, I believe deeply in service. I was a Forest Service officer for 35 years. I joined straight out of graduate school. And like Greg, I went to a different school, not in the deep South, but way out east in a place called Boston, and then went to graduate school in Boston, and then straight into the Foreign Service. And I've had the honor to represent my country in a large number of locations, also at the White House and at the National Security Council, and also with the United Nations. You'll find in my classes, and I think across the curriculum, opportunities to explore what interests you, while we hopefully excite you, inspire you, and perhaps give you some of the tools that you will need if you desire a career in public service, no matter what that may be. I'm excited to see so many of you. I too will be interviewing tomorrow. I may be a softer touch than Professor Vogel. We'll find out. Thank you so much for your attention. I look forward to your questions.
Howdy, y'all. There you go. There you go. I'm one of the old timers here. I've been here for 13 years. My name is Professor Valerie Hudson. I'm a university distinguished professor. I hold the George H.W. Bush Chair, and I direct the program on women, peace, and security, one of the nodes of excellence at the Bush School of Government and Public Service. I too am really, really happy to be at the Bush School. Bush 41 was a personal hero of mine. I think if there had been anybody else as president as the Cold War ended, we would have had a very different outcome earlier, perhaps. Maybe I should say it that way. We would have had an earlier tragic outcome. But I think one of the things that really got me as they recruited me here to the Bush School so many years ago was that President Bush, there were two things that really stood out to me about President Bush. One was he was absolutely bound and determined that the future public servants of our country would not be saddled with debt that would prohibit them from going into public service. And so the bulk of the fundraising at the Bush School is fundraising for you, for scholarships, for stipends, for research assistantships, so that you will not leave this place saddled with so much debt. And I tip my hat to him for that very noble attitude. The second thing that I love about Bush 41, as well as the school that he founded, is that this is a purple in
Okay. Guys tell me, it's gonna impact people. Somebody, raise your hand. Yes, sir. Can be. Internship, yes. Other things. Yes, sir. Language immersion, absolutely, yes, sir. Travel abroad, somebody else. There's another one, key element, you guys are missing. Yes. Could be speaking events, they can hear me. Oh, I forgot. I don't like these things. They know I don't like these things. Apologies online. It could be speaking events, but it's about how you engage with that. So maybe if you're arranging the speaking event and doing the behind the scenes, but not just attending one, because it could impact you, but not at a depth that we're talking about, right? But that's a good one. Because we did just have the Secretary of State of Poland here, like literally about 2 weeks ago, talking to us about Ukraine, Poland, European Union, and then all hell broke loose, as we all know. So one more. There's one more that's really important for you guys as well. Yes, ma'am. Can be, yes. I'm thinking research. So these are all different opportunities that you guys can have when you're coming here to Texas A&M and specifically the Bush School. And the way that we work with that, obviously you're required to do a language component, and there are different elements of education abroad or study abroad that you can do that you can fit into your coursework in those 2 years that you're here. We just have to work through that. And that's part of my job, is that I figure out how to get it done. And so when your faculty come to me and say, hey, like Ambassador Hennessy Nyland says, I want to do sports and diplomacy, and we have an international soccer team coming to Austin playing the US national team, and I want to take my sports and diplomacy class, we figure out how to make that happen and get the behind the scenes tours and things of that nature. We have an undergraduate student that says, hey, I met the Secretary of State in Poland while I was doing my study abroad and my immersion, and he's like, he said he would come here. We figure out how to make that happen, which we were able to do. And it literally was because of a former student having met the secretary's wife, and this undergraduate student having gone on his study abroad, meeting him saying, yes, he'd like to come, and we figured it out. So there is nothing off the table. It's just, how do we get it done? From our faculty getting into the Congo, getting into Jordan, getting into all those hot spots, even Ukraine. We've had faculty go to Ukraine because that's where their research is, and they need to be able to do that. So we do things at a higher level, obviously, at the Bush School, because of the nature of the business that you will go into afterwards, but we do it right so that everyone stays safe and they don't take away our privileges, right? It's really important. So if you guys have an idea, we had a group of young people that wanted to go to the World War II Museum in New Orleans because they were studying the monuments, men and women, and all of that from World War II. And so we figured out how to get them funded to go to that museum so they could get the behind the scenes with the World War II monuments, men and women. And actually, we're going to have Alexandra Ritchie here in the fall, who is she is the wife of the Secretary of State of Poland, but she also does World War II history, writes books, and she's heavily involved with the monuments, men and women. And then she's currently filming a documentary in Europe right now. So all those kinds of things, from whatever it is you guys are interested in, even if it's just research. And I don't mean just, because we have amazing faculty that'll get you onto the Marshall group that's in Europe, or they want to study other things in South America. Whatever it is you guys want to do, come talk to me when you come here as students, and we'll try to figure it out and see how we can fit it in and navigate the system that is Texas A&M University. So you guys have whatever it is that you want to do from an international / high impact. So that's domestic, sending our students to Hawaii on very important capstones, to an international space. Does that all make sense? Okay. Any immediate questions come to mind? One of my partners in Good Trouble is Miss Hosea, and she and I worked in tandem and getting you guys into these spaces with her team as well. And she's going to talk to you about some other requirements.
Okay, I know most of you are probably as wiped out as I am right now, so I'm going to keep this pretty short. You know, or you should know by now, there's a language requirement associated with this degree, correct? If you don't know, you haven't been listening. So the language requirement, yes, you have to pass it at an intermediate low level. We strive to get you higher than that. We have, in this past year, Professor Howell has been able to hire professional linguists from the FBI and CIA who actually do this for their full-time job, and they are helping our students get to those levels. So you can take advantage of that when you come in. If you come in with a language and you're extremely confident that you can pass it at the intermediate low level, go ahead and take the test. Take it, get it over with. And then if there's another language that you want to learn or that you have been learning and you want to get better at, then work with our linguists and raise your level on that, and then take that test. We have one student, one second-year student right now that I think he's on his 10th or 11th language that he's taken, and he's passed all of them. So it can be done. The Bush School will pay for the first test in any language. If you happen to fail that first test, then the second test is on you. But you will not receive your degree until you pass that requirement. Any questions? Great. You can see how organized we are, right?
Well, I'm looking at my clock going, all right, my time's not up for a little bit. So Ashley Treadway is still in the other building, and she always do this with her because she's the one who coordinates the messaging that goes out. So I was asked this earlier, how soon will you be alerted about decisions? First and foremost, this is 95 of you now. We lost another one yesterday, didn't show up. I've got until next week to try to finish the alternate interviews. So we've got at least a dozen or so that I've got on the books or I'm working on that will be done hopefully by Friday. We, I believe, are meeting the week after for decisions. In the meantime, Ashley and I are working on the Master Public Service side, getting their decisions as we meet next week for theirs. And so we've got to get decisions out for MPSA by the end of February, first part of March. Then we rotate and go to the MIA and get all of theirs out. So our goal is to try to get decisions to you by about March 10th through the 15th. I don't yet know what that looks like on a calendar because I haven't turned my calendar to look at March yet because I've been so inundated with February. So we will be in touch via email with a decision. Those decisions usually come out to be, congratulations, you're admitted, and here's the amount of funding you have. And it'll tell you over 2 years. Because as Dr. Bearce covered yesterday, our Bush School scholarships are a 2-year deal. So let's just go over this. Those amounts were 20,000 is our most generous. Then we go to 15,000, 10,000, 7,000, 5, 3, and there may be a few that we have to give one. We just run out of money. Every one of you will get some level of merit funding. And if you're from out of state, you also receive the non-resident tuition waiver. That is stated in your letter. So if you get, let's say, for instance, a $5,000 scholarship, your offer letter is going to say, congratulations, you've been admitted. You will receive 10,000 over 2 years. So it's 5,000 first year. That is renewed in the second year as long as you maintain a certain GPA. 3.25? 3.25. A 3. Okay. Should be able to maintain a 3.0. And so that amount is renewed in your second year, or you will give up whatever that first year funding was. Let's say it was 5,000. And instead, maybe you're competing for a GA position. If you get a graduate assistant position, either working for faculty or for staff, there's a few of them that we use, then you would instead be earning closer to around 20,000 a year. That's what a GA position pays. But you can't have the 5,000 and the 20,000. It's one or the other. The only way around that is, particular Aggies, that if you have connections in your undergrad department where they may be allowed TAs or GAs for working for their department, you can keep your Bush School scholarship and you can be working as a GA in another department. Now, sometimes those departments can include Veteran Services, the Writing Center. There's a lot of options out there. If you get a GA position in another part of the university, you're not having to give up the Bush School scholarship because that's not our funding. We just can't double dip on our own, or we can't cover everybody. Those scholarships are quite generous in the sheer magnitude of the number of people we cover. That's both departments with about 80 to 100 people. A lot of schools that you're going to be hearing from, they may only give scholarships to the top 25%. And that leaves a lot of people going, great, loans, can't wait. And those loans can be expensive. So you really have to make sure that when you get an offer from a school, compare what ultimately they're offering in terms of free money versus what they're saying, you can receive this package deal and get a loan and then know you're having to repay that. So watch for that kind of offer letter from the schools. We know many of you are applying to multiple schools, as you should be. We are just hoping that we can sell you on what our benefits are and how awesome we are in working one-on-one with our students that you may not get at another school. There are some unique perspectives of being from Texas and outside of that beltway, and kind of, again, that willingness to listen and not have your opinion and talk over people, hear what they have to say about that. So there's a lot of advantages of an education here that we just want you to think about as you get those offer letters. But those do plan to go out around that March 10th to 15th. If you don't get an offer letter, there's two other versions. One that says, we ran out of space, we're going to put you on a wait list, but I can guarantee you, maybe not guarantee, I can tell you, I'm probably not going to be able to tell you a decision by April 15th. Because April 15th is the national deadline that most schools require you to respond if you accept their offer or not. And I will tell you, all the no's, we'll get a smattering of them, they all come the last 2 days. And so I'm not going to know because there's still a lot of money out on the table. And I'm not going to know if you're going to say yes or no to it. And so I can't tell you on the wait list, if you get another offer from another school, I'm probably going to say, here's kind of what it looks like. But if you've got an offer to someone, you may want to take it. Unless you know you really want to be here. And I can kind of give you an idea of how it's going and you can make that decision. But wait list is that no man's land. I hate to put people in, but we're going to do it for probably, I don't know, 10, maybe 20. Depends on how this class goes. I will say some years we had only pulled a handful off, maybe one or two. Some years, depending on how acceptances go, we may have pulled off 8. So I just can't tell you what your chances are. I can maybe hint at it. That third option is the one no one wants to get, and that's sorry, you've been declined. And don't take it personally. It's just, this is the way it goes for, Ashley, come on down. That's just the decision-making process, right? So ultimately, when this comes down, we're going to get those letters generated with the 2-year funding, let you know somewhere between the 10th and the 15th, a decision. I'm going to let you do kind of that steps to follow up, right? Like they're going to have to accept all that. Are there any questions so far about that timeline? I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to cover. I'll think about it while you're talking about how they accept.
Okay. If offered admission, you'll get a letter from us. It'll have a link. You'll tell us if you are accepting or declining your offer. And then you go into, that's one of 2 steps. And then you'll go into what we call our Howdy portal, and you'll formally accept your offer of admission through A&M. A&M takes 7 to 10 business days for your status to be updated from an applicant to an admitted student. So if you email me in between that time and say, why am I not activated yet? It's because it takes time. They have about 70,000 students they're processing. And so it just takes time. But in that time, go ahead and request your official transcripts from every four-year college that you've attended, unless you're an A&M student or a former A&M student, or you went to A&M. Don't request your A&M transcripts from College Station. Corpus Christi, you'll have to request yours. In Galveston, you don't have to request yours, but go ahead and request your official transcripts. Registration opens at the end of March, 1st of April, April 2nd, something like that. So March 28th. So if you get your letter, offer of admission March 15th, that means you only have about a week and a half to get all of your official transcripts in, accept your offer of admission before registration opens. That's fine. That's just when it starts. Registration opens all the way through August, but just know you'll have a registration hold on your account until you submit your officials. I think that's it. Yeah. Is there anything unique with 5 years? No. Okay.
Trying to think if there's one other thing. I will tell you registration, it's first come, first serve. So if you know when you get an offer letter and this is where you want to be, don't dilly-dally around, get it in, because some of those classes will fill quickly, especially if you want to take one of those electives. And Peg Hosea will be the one working with you on that. Lucky. Yeah. Yeah. So once you get that offer letter and you make that decision, Ashley and I are trying to pass you off to Miss Hosea because you are now working with the department level on information. And I think we're still going to try to help with some information over the summer, keep you guys informed of what's going on, but it'll be between us and the department trying to relay information to you. Okay. So we'll take care of you as best we can. And then when school starts, if you were to look up when fall Texas A&M classes are, it's usually the end of August. August 25, we meet a week before then for orientation. And it's a required orientation. So you'll want to be there because there's good information being given to you that you will miss if you're not there. Or you'll be crashing on someone's couch. Yeah, there's a lot of things to think through when doing that. And we'll try to alert you and give you notes and here's some hints and things, but you've got to be proactive and know, because this is a very large college town. There's a lot of options out there, but the best ones are the ones you need to get on the ball for. Yeah. Okay. I think that was all I was trying to cover was the timeline and kind of the expectation. We will work as quickly as we can to get these rest of the interviews put together, get the faculty comments in so we can meet the first part of March. I don't remember what day the meeting is. March 6th is our meeting. It'll take Ashley and I probably a day or two to get it all organized and out to you, but we'll do it as quickly as we can. Okay. All right, Dr. Bearce, all you. And I will say when we're done with this, when he's finished with the wrap up and questions, it's 4:30. Maybe 10 minutes we can get in early for dinner, but we'll do the same thing with asking everyone to go in and get a table, and then the special meals can get up and get their food first. And then, as I reminded you, we're all tired. If it takes you 10 minutes to eat your meal and you want to leave, you are welcome to do that. Okay.
I'm going to lean on the microphone. And since I'm leaning on the microphone, I'm going to use this one. Okay, I appreciate everybody's tired. So am I. It's been a busy 24 hours. And quite frankly, if you are not, you haven't taken this thing seriously. So take a deep breath. I'm going to make a few concluding remarks, and then I'm open to any final questions you might have. Even if you've asked somebody else, I'm happy to answer it again. I'd like to make sure that you are leaving here with a full understanding of what we have in our program, what we can provide, and quite frankly, what we can't. I'm not claiming we can do everything. Okay, so concluding remarks. I am Dr. David Bearce. It is probably, okay. So again, reminder that we expect this to be a full 2-year program, 4 semesters and the summer in between the 2 years. Okay, so full 2-year package. In this sense, folks, you got to think of this like a sprint. This is not a marathon. You can take 4 years if you want, but we're only providing 2 years of funding. And since this is a professional terminal master's, your goal is to get into the workforce. So every additional year you spend here that is a year of deferred salary. You can do it if you want, if you're independently wealthy, but I'm guessing most of you are not. Okay. 48 credit hours, 3 credits per class, 4 classes a semester, 8 a year, 16 total. In the summer, you're going to either do an internship experience related to international policy, and this would be especially important for the some of you that don't yet have a significant international experience. You are going to want that on your CV to present to employers when you're done. You also have to pass this language competency test. You can come into my office and I will listen to you for about 5 minutes, explain to me why you just didn't have the time to do this and can I waive this requirement for you? I will listen and then I'm going to tell you no. So, knowing that you have this language requirement, either you are going to get started early on it or you are going to spend the summer doing the immersion program. Okay? Know that before you enter. Again, and proficiency in the foreign language, okay, I've already gone that. Some of you already have proficiency and this will not be a big deal, but many of you don't. And so this is a hurdle that you will have to clear. And it's a very important one. Nobody in DC is going to take seriously an applicant for an international policy position who doesn't have some foreign language and international experience on their CV to showcase. Okay. Some unique opportunities, the leadership. Did Holly already talk about the leadership program? Okay. I'm glad her name is there because I don't have a lot to tell you about that. The capstone project, it's your 2nd year. It's a required course. What I would add, because I think I said yesterday that, and this is typically taken in your 4th semester, we do offer a limited set of capstones in your 3rd semester. And in fact, I'm going to also add this, there may be a chance, I'm not recommending that you do this, but we may allow some first-year students to enter into certain capstones that might not be fully enrolled so that I don't have to cancel them. But the way you should think about this is you're normally going to take your capstone in your 2nd year and in your 2nd semester of your 2nd year, but you have to take a capstone. Lots of topical lectures. Many of these will be in classes with simulations. We've got writing assistants upstairs. Brenda Kent, this is important. You need to know, we talked about this yesterday. You need to know how to write for a professional audience. And by the way, this is not the same as writing for an academic audience. Learn to be brief and to the point. Do this in your emails to me as well. I am busy. If it's 7 paragraphs, I will read the first 1.5. And if there's not a question in it, I probably won't answer you. Warning you now. Okay, language study, just talked about that. International travel, important. And we have these centers and programs that in many ways will help sort of bring, in a symbolic sense, Washington here to the Brazos Valley. connect you with things going on in the world and people from different agencies. Had some big names here through these centers. In the time that I've been here, we've had the director of the FBI, director of Central Intelligence, director of the Office of National Intelligence in the White House. Who else? National Security Agency. Okay. These folks have all been here on this stage in the last 2 years. All right. Now, the Washington, D.C. teaching site. Again, this is perhaps somewhat less relevant to you, but one thing that I will mention is we are currently setting up a way for students in College Station to finish their 2-year MIA program in Washington, D.C. So wait for news on that. Okay, capstone project. Semester long, working on a real world problem for a client. Who's a client? It's typically a government agency. It could be a think tank. We regularly have a capstone with the RAND Corporation, International Public Service. These capstones are small classes. They say 6 to 8. What I mean by this, we say 6 to 8, actually 5 to 8 is a better number. If it's below 5, normally we would cancel it. That's why I might let first years into a capstone if you are super interested in the subject, to make sure I've got at least 5 and don't need to cancel it. I'm going to try very hard to never let these things get above 8 or they get hard to manage. Okay. And our clients, again, State Departments, you know how to read at this point. Okay, international opportunities. Hopefully somebody's already gone into some more detail, but we have the study abroad field seminars. Here's a list of where these have been in recent years. We have these semester reciprocal exchange programs that include language studies. Possibly you can do this in South Korea, Germany, and in the greater United Kingdom. Okay. I'm not necessarily encouraging you to do these because there can be some complications, but if you are looking for the international experience that you haven't gotten before, this is a way to do this. Okay, the Washington, D.C. teaching site. We actually don't have a picture here of the teaching site, but it's a nice building near the White House. It is a different program being taught up there, but one of the other things I do want to mention about DC, the possibility of finishing your program up there. We may also occasionally allow you to take, if you want, none of these are required, what we're going to call hybrid courses taught from DC. So they'll be taught in person to the DC students. We do this with some of the regional concentrations. So to make sure we've got enough offerings on Latin America, Asia, Middle East. These are typically evening courses. So if you want to take them, it'll be in the evening, 1 day a week. And we've got these research institutes. They not only bring in speakers, but they are doing their own work. And so Director of Scowcroft, Director of Mosbacher is actually currently in DC. Center for Grand Strategy, you met Jason Castillo. John Sussler was not able to be here for this event, but these are people you'll take classes from. They're doing research. If you're interested in the work they're doing, in the second year when you apply to be a graduate research assistant, you will identify to us who you're interested in working with. Similarly, the professors will identify to us who they are interested in working with. I will say that especially if you're interested in doing research, this is another reason to take the stats classes seriously and in your first year, because they may well be looking for somebody who can collect data and analyze data for them. And you will wish to have demonstrated your ability to do this. And that is what 631 and potentially 635 can do for you, signaling your skills here. And this could be a nice opportunity. This is, all right. Advantages of the Bush Schools MIA program. Well, The first one is cost. Now, folks, this is not free, and I'm not claiming that this is a free program. And quite frankly, if it were, you should be very suspicious. I have good professors here because they are paid well to do their work. But this is by far a lower cost program than many, if not most, of your alternatives. And my competitors tell me that they resent our ability to provide funding to our students. Okay. So you can, I believe, most of you get through this program with far less debt than you could, let's say, Georgetown School of Foreign Service. There may be good arguments for going there, but cost is not in their set. It is in ours. Yes. Okay, professors of the practice. And you've met with some have been on the stage talking to you. You know the importance of this. And this was really, quite frankly, one of my biggest disappointments about the DC program I went to. I really thought, listen, it's in Washington, DC. They will have people like this. There will be ambassadors among the faculty at American University who can help me with the Foreign Service exam because I want to be a Forest Service officer. There was not, at least not when I was there. So these are investments that we have made here. We think they're important. And as you're thinking about the other schools, make sure, if you are interested in that they actually have this feature. And they're going to be deceptive. I worked across the street from SAIS when I was at the Brookings Institution. And I remember the sign they had that said, Gene Kirkpatrick, something. It didn't say Gene Kirkpatrick works here, but that's basically what it was saying. And I remember asking a student about that, and they said, yes, once every other year she teaches a course. 8 students. So most of the kids at SAIS did not get a course with Gene Kirkpatrick. If you are in intelligence studies here, you will get a course with Greg Vogel. If you are in diplomacy concentration, you will have a course with John Hennessy Nyland. Okay? Academic faculty. We have good academic faculty. And if they're not good, I'm not going to give them tenure, and we'll get somebody good who comes in. So you have, I think, in this sense, a full faculty package, not just across academic disciplines, but professional differences as well, professors of the practice and PhDs. And jobs. I mean, this is the end that you are looking for here, I assume. This is why you have come to a terminal professional master's degree program. Hopes of getting a job. And we do a pretty good job with this. Proud to have this number up. Okay. I think this is the end. My predecessor had lots of other reasons to come, but they got a little silly, so I have deleted those slides. I'm all about business. So in this sense, we are close to the end. But I will say, if you have questions or concerns, I'm happy to try to answer and address those. Don't keep these to yourself. This would be foolish. So I saw a hand here. Yes, with some potential caveats, and let me explain what I mean here. It may be that some of the capstone clients are not going to want your research from the capstone to be published and handed out to employers. So you may not have full freedom in certain capstones to circulate and just hand out your product. But you have ways of signaling on your CV. For example, my CV, I didn't really take a capstone, but consultant with USAID, consultant with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. You have ways to signal that experience, even if you are somewhat restricted in how you can use the capstone paper as a writing sample. Does that address your question? Okay. Please. Yeah, this is one of the things that as we are trying to set up the ability for the students who start in College Station to finish in DC. The reason we just can't snap our fingers and make this happen is exactly what you just said there, is that we have to make sure that there is space and enough classes for the students in the College Station MIA curriculum to take in DC. And what this would mean, for example, if you were to take your fourth semester, be able to complete your fourth semester in DC, there'd have to be enough capstone options. The capstones are actually not a big trick in DC because we've got a lot of professors to practice with agency connections. The bigger complication is completing all of the concentrations. And I will have more to say to you, advice, if we can get this set up. For example, one of the things that I will say when this is set up, and hopefully this will be during your time, but if it's not, this is what I will say. Remember that you have to finish 2 concentrations and you've got some other electives, 5, right? That could be shaped into a 3rd capstone if you wanted, but save those electives if you are going to be taking your last semester in DC, because that will give you a lot more flexibility to match classes with what DC offers. That making sense? Okay. It's my job to think long-term anyway. Doesn't mean I have the answer, but I'm thinking. Go ahead. As far as I know, you can. I don't know any restrictions here. Over there. Let me cut this one to admissions here.
Is you're asking for permission. We don't approve it until the department approves it for that deferral. So there are times that the reason you're asking for is because of a situation and we're like, yeah, we'd rather you just apply again when you're ready. Because we don't know that you're actually going to come back next year if it's a job. So sometimes we'll tell you no. So you do have to ask for the deferral and we'll tell you an answer, just so you know that ahead of time.
Well, if we would not be sending people on to Beirut presently, okay? So let me, yeah, let me be. What's that? Well, so that's some of my faculty, and yeah, but let me have Cory. I can answer, but then Cory will have to correct me.
Yeah. So we don't allow our graduate students into war zones. So yeah, we sometimes allow our faculty into it depending upon mission critical needs. And we have had faculty go into Ukraine a year ago. And in the Congo, which the Congo is a little bit of a mess as well. But there is a long line of permissions that happens with that, which is why if that is something, war zone, forget it. But if there's a challenging place and you know there might be, like Mexico actually has different pockets that have problems and others that are fine. But if you know you want to go do that research, you need to come talk to me as soon as possible so that I can start that process and run the traps for you so we know exactly what we're going to run into. That way we can have it all in line, we can get it all good, and you guys are not delayed. Because I also know that those delays impact funding that goes along with it too. Okay, so I do follow the law of the land in regards to us getting access in and out of different spaces. Some countries require going all the way up through our system. Some countries just require our president's confirmation, and some just the department and the school in and of itself. So it varies. Each country goes through, an international goes through a risk management process as well. So it's not a one and done that you sent it in. There's multiple layers. And that's why think early about what it is that you want to do and come troubleshoot with me. And then we'll see what we can do and figure out with that. Okay. Those are great questions. I think we have had students do capstones or field trips into Israel, but it was a year before everything started happening. So we're not afraid of those things. We're smart about those things, if that makes sense. Okay, because we are allowed to do things that some of the main campus aren't allowed to, just by the sheer nature of the work that you guys are actually doing. It's mission critical for the Bush School, so we have to figure out how to do it and how to do it well. Other questions along that line? Yes, sir. No, our faculty can, you cannot. And our undergraduate have even less permission for war zones. Okay. Yeah. We take care of you. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Say this again. Every four-year university. So if you submit 3 and you think that that's done because you transferred one course from this university like 10 years ago, A&M, and I may not catch it, but A&M admissions will, and they'll put that hold on your account before I even know about it. So, I think that was all I was going to say. It's gone. It's gone.
Every school.
Oh, if you graduate in May or in August, let's just say that you're currently in your bachelor's program or a degree of any kind, you'll submit your official transcript currently if you accept or offered admission and accept. So that way that registration hold is removed from your account, allowing you to register. And then once you graduate, wait a few weeks to make sure your university puts the degree awarded date on your transcript and then request your final official transcript. So you have to do it twice. Is it like a joint, are they all connected? Okay, usually no, but if you email me, I can definitely check and confirm for you before you request and waste money. Uh-huh.
You don't even have to send in your A&M transcript. Yep. If you're an A&M student in College Station, Galveston, or Qatar, but that doesn't apply here. You don't have to submit transcripts from those universities. And any former transcripts you've already requested be sent to A&M because A&M already has them on file. So you're good. Mm-mm. Nope. The question was, after my grades are posted, she's an A&M student. After my grades are posted, do I need to request my final official? No. Any other questions? The question was, if you're a 3+2 student, what kind of, who do I ask? What are tuition? What are the costs? All of that. And how does the combined tuition works? In your 4th year or your senior year, when you're classified as a U4, which will be your first year in the MIA program, you are billed undergraduate tuition rates. You're classified as an undergraduate still, so you need to go to your undergrad advisor. All of that is through your undergrad department. Then in your 5th year, you'll still receive a Bush School scholarship. But in your 5th year, then you're flipped over to a G7 and you're charged graduate tuition rates and are eligible for our merit-based scholarship. Correct. Any other questions?
Easier to do it now than write it in an email, so don't be shy.
And if you were a 3+2 student, you probably heard this earlier, but remember when I talked about 2-year funding coming to you guys, 5-year students, 3+2 students from A&M, your first year is $1,000 period, because you're still an undergrad. So you won't get a 2-year scholarship that says you're 5,000 and 5,000 renewed. You're 1,000 no matter what, and your second year is 5,000, 10,000, whatever it is. Okay, so it looks a little different. Funding is different for 3+2 students. Okay, any other questions? I've got a couple of things, Ashley, and I need to cover, but I didn't want to do it. We're going to wrap up pretty quickly. All right, let's start right here, and we'll work our way back. For transcripts, you need to attend every 4-year university transcript only, not every university you attended. So if, like community colleges, junior colleges, you don't have to send those in. We just need the 4-year universities. Yes. And if you don't know, ask Ashley, she can clarify for you. Okay. Other question over here. Oh, right here. The question for you. Any issues with expanding the program out longer than 2 years, other than financially?
No, I mean, it's deferred salary, but it can be done. We're not going to ever encourage you to do this, but as long as you understand sort of what you're getting into, okay.
Okay, is there one last question or are we good? Same thing, okay. I know Ashley's got a couple of people she needs to call out for W-9. I want to remind you, W-9s are for those that were traveling here. You received a link yesterday that told you how to upload your receipts for that. Remember, receipts on that email tells you what I have to have on it. It's got to have your name. It's got to have the date. Follow all of that, or I'm going to have to send it back to you because I can't use it if it doesn't include all 4 of those things. Proof of payment. A&M's a stickler for that. They can't see that you paid for it. They're going, nope. So questions for that, you can always email me at Bush School Admissions, but I'll start receiving those from you on that Google Doc and I'll process them well, as soon as I get done with giving out your offers. I'm not going to process these receipts until I'm done with offers, right? So March 7th is your deadline and I will send you a reminder for that.
And by the way, it's no different at Central Intelligence. They have the same receipt policy. Get used to it now. This is what it means to become a professional.
And it's Faith Shagula still here, Faith. I think your headphones and stuff were on a cart. I've got them with me. Okay. And then the last thing, at the end of dinner, those that are needing rides to the hotel will call for you. I just wanted to say that part. All right, Ashley's got 2 people.
Can I see Keegan Sutton and Gus Rodriguez? That's it. Great. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, look forward to seeing many, if not most of you in the fall.
So when you go into that room, I want you to go sit at a table first. And those with special dietary needs, get in line. And then I'm going to start releasing tables.